Welcome to the Grow Your Law Firm podcast, brought to you by Pilma. This podcast helps lead lawyers to more growth, profit, and freedom. Here is your legal marketing expert and host, Ken Hardison.
Well, hello, everyone. This is Ken Hardison, and welcome to another episode of Grow Your Law Firm. And today we had the pleasure of having Judd Shaw, injury lawyer out of New Jersey and New York, and he founded the firm on the premise that clients come first. And I have listened. He also has his own podcast. I listened to it. I like what I was hearing. Anybody that knows me or read any of my books or does any follow me knows I am really keen on client service, customer service, whatever you want to call it. And I wanted to get Judd on our show because I wanted our listeners to see how to do this and what it does for you when you do it. I mean, I think lawyers, the number one complaint is that lawyers, they don't call you back and they don't communicate. They don't let you know what's going on your case. And so many lawyers, I don't care how good you are, if you don't do that, you're probably going to have a failed business if you don't end up losing your license sooner or later. So not only is it good business, it's good to keep your license, which are so hard to get, right? So anyway, Judd, thank you for taking time, because I know you're busy. You're building that big law firm up there in Jersey, so I know you're busy, and I appreciate you taking time. I really do.
Well, Ken, thanks for having me on today. I always enjoy talking about this subject. It's a passion of mine as well.
Yeah. So I just kind of laid the groundwork, but tell us a little bit about yourself and your law firm, what you want the listeners to know about you.
Well, I started my law firm representing medical providers against insurance companies for reimbursement of personal injury protection benefits, known as PIP. There are no-fault states in which allow a provider who treats an auto accident victim on assignment to get collections from the auto carrier for those medical expenses that they deny. And some states like New York do it through a court system or AAA. New Jersey does it through arbitration, binding arbitration. And at that time, no-fault arbitration was really a niche area of the law. I got into it. We grew up pretty well. We became one of the New Jersey's largest arbitration filers. Had a great reputation for aggressive and zealous representation of our medical providers, clients who were getting shorted by the insurance companies, who are denying medical benefits for business reasons. And we went after them. And today, there are many more law firms that are adding PIP arbitration to their practice. I serve as a member of the New Jersey Arbitration Advisory Council. And I developed my own case management software and launched PIP app because I recognized that there was no specific case management software built for the type of practice that I was engaged in. And so I hadn't even realized, Ken, at that time that program would establish our client experience model. And within a few years of building my practice, I saw a strong relationship between the medical providers who are treating accident-related injuries and the accident victims themselves. Wow. And so I decided that I would represent them as well. And people, at no fault of their own, who were injured in an accident caused by somebody else's negligence. We went with the same approach for client experience. We applied the same core values, the same principles and processes. And today, our firm dedicates its work to both no-fault arbitration and personal injury.
Cool. So today I want to talk about the exceptional client service that you were just alluding to. So first I want to ask you, why do you think it's so important that you give exceptional client service experience?
When I first started working, I recognized that there was a difference between the times I would get a recovery representing a doctor based on how open the level of communication I had with that provider, right? And so the client sort of understood expectations because of the type of communication we'd have. They were more reasonable about the approach or my advice. And that relationship really carried on not only to providing better, high quality legal representation, but also a first class customer service. And that client became a cheerleader for my firm and for my service. I didn't do any advertising early on because in arbitration for this type of practice area, unlike these others, it's not something you're going to run a commercial for or a billboard or, post a radio commercial about. So it all came from word of mouth. One medical provider talking to another medical provider about the service that I was doing. And there are others doing it, and there are other great lawyers out there. And so the only way that I could stand out among them was to provide the same great legal service, but also add to it a wow customer service.
I love it. That was your I call it unique selling proposition. That's what stood you out. That's why they say why choose you over everybody else. And I was talking to a lawyer yesterday, and he ran some new ads, and he asked me to look at them, and I said, I mean, the ads are good quality and everything. I said, but the deal is, you've not answered that question. Do I need a lawyer? And if I do, why should I choose you? I mean, what stands you out? And so I think I did the same thing with my law firm, and so I'm really excited to talk to you today about it, and ask you, how do you start? Where like when you were saying, okay, I got to do this I did this with the doctors. Now I want to do this with the injured people. How'd you start the strategy? I mean, where'd you begin?
Great question. Well, it ties into actually your book, which is a great book, Ken. I've read it. There are a lot of really good books on this topic, and I'm a big reader. But I recognize that the first thing you had to do was meet your promise. Do what you say you're going to do.
Yeah.
After that, it doesn't matter what you send, what kind of marketing stuff you have, what kind of swag bag. If you aren't going to stand and do what you say you're going to do, nothing else matters. So you got to meet your promise. You got to make sure that you're going to set up the client with an understanding as to what they can expect of you, and then do it. So I always made sure that what we did from the start with every client was make sure that their questions were answered honestly and to what we really believed, right? We didn't want to sell the client on retaining us on a promise that we couldn't deliver, because then we were already set up for failure. And so, there are cases that we don't see it the way that perhaps a client may, or lead in the beginning, and we'll tell them there could be another lawyer for you, because I don't want to let that client down. When I take on representation of a client, that client knows we're going to fight and we're going to do what we say we're going to do.
Right.
I think that's really important. I think the second thing behind it is to make sure that your core values are right in the heart and center of that company. Everybody has to have their own core values. It talks and speaks to what kind of company that is and it can be from, it can run the gamut. For us, our core values, be a knight in shining armor, right? And the idea behind it is step up. These clients are counting on us. Be that knight in shining armor. Save that day. Help them. Fight day in and day out until you get them justice. Second, work the wow. Meaning, if somebody isn't talking about your customer service, you're not delivering great customer service, right? And so really work the wow. The third is we think it's important to be committed to and passionate about the work, right? So look for professional development, look for ways to help your peers and your colleagues. And then lastly, be chivalrous. And that is to all those that we deal with, because we feel that when we're chivalrous and we act in that spirit, that we will get a better result for our client because we're working collectively, particularly as a team within our own company. And so you got to get those core values down. Most importantly, all of those core values speak to the mission of our company. 1, high quality legal representation. 2, first-class customer service. So we hit that over and over and over again so that our team knows how important that is to the DNA of Judge Shaw Injury Law. It is customer service.
Yes, that is who you are. That's what I love this. I was hoping you were going to get into that, because what I see is a lot of law firms, they say all core values, that's just a bunch of BS. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I've been doing this, I hate to say it, but next year will be 40 years I've been a lawyer. I'm older than dirt, Judd. But I can tell you, the first 10 years I practiced law, I thought that was a bunch of junk. I'll be honest. I mean, I really did. I mean, I just thought the clients just wanted the results, and they do want results, but I think they want something much, much more. They want you to care. And when they know how much you care, then they start caring. I really believe.
I found, Ken, it's interesting you say that. So the client can want $20,000, and at the end, you could get them $20,000. You never really know, right, whether you could have gotten 25, or maybe if the client would have been okay with 18. But they wanted 20 and you got them 20. But during that time, you told them that you return a call and you didn't. You told them that your office would return calls promptly and they waited, or they delayed, or the client had to follow up. You told them this and then you did that, right? You didn't do what you told your client. The client had expectations that weren't met. The client was frustrated by the lack of communication. The client was never really wowed. The client was never really sort of felt like they were important, that their case was the most important. So at the end, they got 20,000. They'll never come back to your law firm again. You got them what they wanted, but they'll never come back. Why? Because if you delivered the wow, and the best you could have actually done was 18,000, but you gave the best customer service, they'll be the biggest cheerleader for your firm because you made it easy. You met your promise. You kept in communication with them. You made them feel important, and they knew they were important.
I totally agree with you, my friend. I mean, that's like I say, it's amazing that lawyers and their staff, and I know the problem is it gets so busy that they just say,
Right.
well, we'll get to it. But it's all I can say is I admire what you're doing.
Thank you, sir.
It's I don't know, you don't even have to tell me, but I guarantee you're getting a hell of a bunch of referrals from old clients, aren't you?
That's true.
Yeah. And this is the crazy thing about this is, you read my books, I mean, most lawyers, they're so worried about getting that before representation, spending all this money with advertising agencies and PPC and this and that, when if you can get that wow to them and then market to them just to keep in the top of their mind, man, that's the kind of people you want coming back and sending their friends and family. And it's so cheap and you don't have to sell yourself. And gosh, why do you want to spend all that money to try to get somebody to know, like, and trust you when if you do your job, what you talk about, the way you do it at your law firm during the representation, all you gotta do is just kind of keep it top of mind, do the little things, and we'll talk about that later. But that's the easiest. That's so easy to get those people. You know what I'm saying? And those clients are usually the one that get referred to you are not tough to deal with because they're not scared. They're not apprehensive. They've already been told by somebody they know, like, and trust that they can trust you and that you're going to look after them and that you're going to give them a wild experience and you're going to fight like hell. And I just think most lawyers miss it. I really do. I mean, not everybody. I think a lot of our Pilgrim members, I think, get it, to be honest with you. But
those cases, Ken, are you going to be your best ROI? They're an organic lead. They're going to go and do the same thing, how they were referred to you, and they'll go refer you to somebody else, and it becomes, it multiplies. And that's all because of the level of service you provided. That's what they remember.
So can you tell me specific tactics or strategies you actually implement to give this wow experience?
Sure. I think often as lawyers, we do get busy and we tend to forget that on the other end is the client. And that's maybe their only case that they've ever been involved in. Certainly the most important thing to them that's going on in their life. And you can't lose sight of the fact that there are other cases, and this is just one of. It's the most important case. And so we survey our clients and we let our team know, and our team has to ask for the number from a 1 to 5 after they speak to every one of our clients every single time. And the reason they do that is because they know that they have to record that score, and that score is based on an average. And we look at that score compared to their relationship with that client, as well as their overall score compared to the relationship with their unit of cases. And what happens is he'll say, for instance, okay, Ms. Smith, the company requires me to ask you how I did on my call. 1, that you think I should be fired and thrown out of here today. And 5, that I blew you away and I delivered excellent customer service. But I'm gonna have to ask you at the end of the conversation. So just keep that in mind. And they'll go around their call, right? And so now our team member is keeping that in mind, right? That front and center is what you do in this conversation. You're being judged on your level of customer service. And at the end, they'll say, okay, all right, Ms. Smith, we go with the medical providers and you're going to go for this. Any other questions? No. Okay. Remember the beginning of this conversation, I asked that I was going to have you score me. So now I'm going to have to do that. Did I do a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? What do you score? And they say 4. And you go, okay, 4. I can deal with that. I'm going to work on making a 5 next time. That's going to be my goal, making a 5, right? And so the client is hearing that I want to get the best possible score. Or it was a 5, and they say, great, awesome. I'm so glad. That was my hope. That's what I want to do, and I'm going to keep that up, right? If it's a low score from 3 down, and they record that. And they know you can't really manipulate that, because at the end those things get flushed out, right? And so if it's a 3 or lower, we're going to know about it, and then we're going to have a conversation with that team member, maybe look at the case, talk to the client, make sure that this isn't something going in the wrong direction. But by keeping that front and center with our team, it allows everybody on the front line throughout the company to carry out the high level, that first class customer experience, really from start to finish. And we recognize that when you pass somebody on, right, the case could be in pre-litigation, and they'll have a pre-lit claims manager and maybe attorney, and then it gets assigned in litigation. It could switch team members, and we want the handoff to be done right. And we want this next team member to be getting 5s. If Sally got 5s as case manager, now it's Jim's time to carry out and make sure that high level of customer service is still carried through, and we don't just drop the ball. And so we'll do things like that. So surveys is a big thing. The last thing is we try to, many things, but the last really sort of unique piece about our team side is they're looking for ways to connect on a personal level with our client. So we have appreciation cards, we have thank you cards, we have different versions of cards. And so, for instance, our claims manager could be talking to somebody and they'll say, hello, Ms. Smith, today's a great day. I'm going to my nephew's graduation. I'm so excited. He's graduating from, right? Now we're making notes of that. We're picking that up. And that information is scored upon on our team to write a congratulations card, send out a graduation card. They have a certain allowance of money that they can use to send a congratulations card or something to that effect, right? Or some kind of swag gift, right? Here, please pass this on to your nephew. Congratulations to him, and hope he has a long, successful professional career. Or you could say, this is a really tough day. I lost my pet today, or my dog passed a week ago, whatever. We're making notes of that, and we're sending condolence card. So we have cards and we handwrite them, right? And or we have different levels of sort of gifts that we try to connect, and that also, we believe, creates an experience, right? So a week later, they're getting some handwritten card in the mail, and they're going, wow, that was really thoughtful, right? They were listening. They were actively listening to what I was saying, and they remembered it. They noted it. They knew that it was important enough because it was important to me. So I think that's a great touch too.
Yeah, I love that. That we did something similar to that. We call it Celebrate a Client, and we would have we give a prize every month. The one that did the most of them,
Yeah.
Pretty cool. So I love that idea. So how do you you've got the score there that you're doing, so that kind of helps you. And do you ever get a situation where, sometimes, and I've seen this, you might have a case manager or lawyer that just somehow that the client and them, they just clash somehow. They just can't quite, you know what I'm saying? It's just something about their personalities. It's like, not that your people aren't being nice to them. It just seems like I've had that happen where I actually changed over the case manager to somebody else. Have you ever had to do that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you have the strong client experience training, right? So that's the main thing, right? And so what I do is I have what's called culture camp. So every 3 months, any new employee within the last 90 days who have not attended one of my culture camps must attend. Anybody else can come and for more retraining. And that day talks about our core values, and we talk about what we do and ways about, and it's training. It's really about firsthand training of big picture kind of stuff. And we spend a lot of time talking about customer service. Part of that day, I will ask somebody who has a client that they want me to call. And name one. I'll call anybody, right? And so we do it randomly, and I have no idea who's throwing somebody at me. And I'll talk to this client. And what will happen is everybody gets to first hear how I would do it, right? How would Judd Shaw of Judd Shaw Injury Law deliver the customer service if he was making this call? I think that's pretty important, because I'm asking them to carry that on. Well, how do I do it then, right? And so I try to show that by using these examples and doing it firsthand in front of them. But the other part to that is then we'll talk about that client in terms of having people understand that the relationship that you're talking about is an intimate one. A claims manager, oftentimes, or the direct attorney and the client is an intimate relationship. They're talking often. They're speaking personally about things that this person may be going through, difficult times based on their injuries or difficulties in loss of a job now, and what that's meaning, or the toll it's taking at home, right? And so by doing that, we want to make sure that our clients are set up with the right people with right personalities. Some people don't get along with me. In fact, probably, there's a number of them. That's okay. It doesn't mean that they're bad or I'm bad either. It just means we don't jive, right? And so what I want to do is I want to get our claims managers teed up. And so it's okay for Ann and Bill for Ann to say, hey, you know what, this person's really, this type of personality, Bill, I think this person, you do really well. Can you take this case? And Bill say, yeah, no problem. Because that's just going to, again, set us up for success. It's not dumping a case, and Bill can do the same thing. We want to encourage our team to point that out, to be able to say, right, in a way of safety, that they're not worried about their job or their work performance, that I just don't think this client and I would get along. I think there could be a better relationship, or vice versa. Oftentimes we'll be talking in meetings, Ken, and somebody else will say, do you want me to call that person? I've actually had that situation before, and can jump in and take over, because I do believe that helps. And you can't be committed or married to a pod being assigned to a client. And if that client's not working well with that team, if you're not making that adjustment, you're not gonna be successful at the end, no matter what the size of the recovery.
Absolutely. So How do you know you got the score system? Any other ways that you measure how successful that your client experience has been with clients?
Yeah. So what we do is that's a sort of what we call our client, we call our claims manager Uber rating, right? So in the top left, everybody has their own Uber rating. Uber drivers can even rate you, right? And so we affectionately refer to it as your Uber rating. But what we also do is we have an independent survey score. So every client in our office is surveyed every 90 days. That survey consists of 4 basic questions. Those 4 basic questions are an easy way for us at a score of a 20. Each one is worth 1 to 5, 5 being the highest, 20 being a perfect score. If the client's rating is a 17 or lower, it's telling us that there's something going on with the client. Generally speaking, one of those categories will be very low. That score will be triggered, and we'll look deeper into that to see what do we have to do, right? Maybe the client is thinking that this is taking so long, but they also don't realize that they're still treating. And so nobody has explained to the client that you don't want to rush that. If you're still treating, that's okay. Don't get frustrated. Yes, get frustrated, but understand that the expectation is we're not going to move your case until you're done treating, right? And that's to your benefit for all those reasons. So these scores sort of actively allow us to take an early action in a case that where a client has a lower satisfaction, but also where a client has a high level of satisfaction, often that's the case, is to try to capitalize on that and say, what are we doing really well and how do we keep that up, right? And so we look at that. And what happens is every person in our team is assigned those clients. That client's score then goes to the overall claims manager's score. So if it's 17 on one case, at 20 on another, 19, that's their average, what we call CSS, client satisfaction score. And we look at that. And so internally, our team knows our clients are going to be independently surveyed. And basically, those questions all deal with your direct deliverance of service, right? Calls are returned promptly, easy to communicate with, questions are answered, satisfied with the level of service, right? Basic questions to give us an idea. And if there are certain teams or pods that aren't scoring as high as others, we can take action on that and say, what's going on? Is it a culture within the pod? Is it something we need to look at within the paralegal, attorney, and claims manager? Do we have to break that up a little bit? Or do we just have to give them better training? Maybe we just have to, remind them that, this is going on and check it.
Yeah, good deal. So what if anything do you do to market to your present past? Well, you already told us what you're doing with your present when you give them that wild. So I'll ask you past clients.
So past clients, what we do is this year with COVID, we didn't have our client appreciation day, but we have a client appreciation day, sort of like a family carnival. We have a bunch of stuff, invite everybody for one day, let them mingle and try to sort of just bring our clients together. And that's also past clients, right? Using them. We're very strong on newsletters. We supply a monthly newsletter. Most of my newsletters are at my website, juddshawinjurylaw.com, and those newsletters provide information about what's going on with results or with activities within the firm, new hires, great results, client highlights, things of this nature. And so we do those newsletters and we send out those communications. We also keep in loop all of our former clients with our current clients regarding any new swag. So for instance, we made a hand sanitizer and we sent out a hand sanitizer letter and it wished everybody, safety during the COVID situation. Here's some hand sanitizer from Judds Shaw Injury Law to use and whatever. And I think some law firms are tied into their active clients and forget about those old clients. And so what we do is we send it to former, and current clients, that type of thing. Wishing everybody a new summer, happy summer, and here's some SPF and chapstick. We send it to everybody. And the last thing we do is we try to bridge the gap on the result time and the extension in the relationship with a client, meaning that our relationship doesn't stop when we hand them the check. That's almost, for us, when it starts, right? And so at that point, what we're doing is we'll send a sort of a case closed gift. Thank you for allowing us to represent. But we're not doing it at that moment. We're doing it about 30 or 60 days later. And then after that, there'll be another letter that'll come out from me, allowing that, the moment to just take the opportunity and thank them again for their trust and their confidence. And here, if their friends or family were to get injured, we would treat them no differently, and the same high level of service. And so we're trying to sort of add in these touches, if you would, client touches, even after the case is resolved.
Okay. I love it, man. I love what you're doing with your law firm. You doing the right things. You really are. You're actually doing it. Some lawyers just talk about it, but you're doing it. And I can tell that's why you're successful. So
Appreciate that, Ken.
Good deal, man. So if anybody wants to pick your brain, and you don't have to get this out because I know you're busy, but I'm just going to offer it to you. If you want to give out your contact information, you can. You don't have to.
Absolutely. My email is Judd at Judd Shaw Injury Law. My phone number is 732-888-8888. That's my office number, but feel free to call me on my cell phone, text me, 808-868-9929. Happy to take questions and talk shop. And you know what, in the end, I learn always just as much as anybody who's reaching out to learn something too.
You do learn. I think you learn a lot when you teach. I know I learn every time, every mastermind we do. I walk out there and I said, I've learned something new today. I think I know a lot, but I don't know it all. And then always something. I mean, you just 1 to 5 deal. That's something new to me. I like that a lot. The only thing I don't like about that, Judd, is I didn't think about it. I didn't think of the idea. That's the only thing I don't like about that idea. I love it, actually. So, did want to ask you one more thing. What's the last book you read?
The last book I read is a book that was recommended by a chief operating officer of a great PI firm that I know down in Louisiana. He recommended a book called Bringing Out the Best in People, which I'm currently reading. I'm about 3/4 through it, and it is awesome.
Good deal. All right. Bringing out the best in people. I love that. Yep. And that's another podcast, leadership. You've got to, as a leader, you've got to coach your people and bring the best out of them, make them better. But that's for another day. Thank you so much. I enjoyed this, and I appreciate you taking time to do this for our listeners out there in podcast land.
Ken, thanks again for having me on. My pleasure.
Until next time, this is Ken Hardison, dedicated to your success.
You have been listening to the Grow Your Law Firm podcast, the podcast that leads lawyers to more growth, profit, and freedom. Go to growyourlawfirm.com to find more ways to market and manage your law firm. Please leave us a rating and review wherever you listen to your podcasts.